just getting it set up, seeing if there's any bugs or anything like that. How's the audio? How's the camera, the lighting, everything like that? Just giving it a test. Haven't done this before. So if you are stopping by and watching this, sorry, it's going to be pretty rough. Never done the live stream before. So it's kind of a different one. It's late where I'm at, so no one's really going to be watching this anyways. It's 10:20 p.m. On the East Coast. It's 11:12, so 1:20 p.m. So, yeah, just getting started here. So, it's kind of interesting because I have no idea what this sounds like to anyone watching this because don't really know. So, hey, if you guys are watching this, thanks for popping in. I'm just doing a little live stream test, checking out the setup. Haven't done this before, just got the software all set up using OBS and just seeing what it's like. So definitely start dropping some comments in the chat if you're watching. Let me know. Can you hear me? How's it sound? What does it look like? I gotta figure out where you can even see the chat. Oh, here we go. Thoughts on the Insta360 One X? So, are you talking about the classic one, or you're talking about the brand new, like teeny tiny one that just came out? I know they just released a teeny tiny one today, but I haven't looked at the specs on it yet. Let me look it up. So, Corey Price, you're talking about both. Yeah. So, the Insta360 One X I have used just a little bit. Actually, you know what? It was the older generation. It was the Insta360 One. I don't think it was the X. It just has a camera on each side. And it's not bad. It's not the best 360 camera ever, in my opinion. When it comes to 360, I kind of struggle with it. It's not my favorite thing ever to use. On those, you're really just getting, like when you actually watch the footage back, the way that it stitches together and everything, just having those two really wide angle 180 cameras, it doesn't deliver the best experience to me. My favorite is it's also by the same company, but it has like 8 cameras around it. We use that a lot in the studio, and it's like incredible. You can look around every single direction, but I can't remember what it's called. Have to look it up. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, I mean, do you do a lot of 360 video and stuff like that already with any other cameras? Brooke is here. What's up, Brooke? Live streaming, first time testing it out. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, it's weird. I gotta get the camera more like right in front of the computer because I have it to the side. So I'm like spending all this time looking at the computer, like trying to follow the live stream, see what's happening in the chat. But I need to be looking right here. So it's kind of dumb. So I'm getting that worked out. What's up, Daniel Vidals? YouTube, welcome over. Just doing a live stream test, seeing how this kind of whole little setup works. I haven't done live streaming on YouTube before, especially like with a DSLR, so that was kind of weird getting it all set up. Had to get the right little adapters from Blackmagic and stuff, but once you get it all set up and get the OBS software working, it's not too bad. So plan on doing more official live streams in the future when it's not super late at night, when everyone's like sleeping and stuff. So but yeah, so man, if you guys have any questions or anything while you're here watching, all 5 of you, leave them down below. Leave them in the comment section. So I would love to answer any of your questions if you're up late and want to talk about anything, filmmaking, cameras, whatever. We could talk about food. I don't care. Whatever you want. So looking up that 360 camera still. There's a really nice one we use in the studio all the time that I work with, and what is it called? Here we go. Yeah, I believe it's the Insta 360 Titan, and it has just, how many cameras does it have? It has 8 fisheye cameras on it. It pretty much looks like the Death Star, but covered in cameras. It's pretty epic. So, live says your live setup, please review. Yeah, I will review this live setup in the future. I'm still getting it figured out. Like I said, it's pretty crude right now. It doesn't have a cool background or anything, but got the camera using the Sony a6500, using my Rode NTG microphone. It's not an NTG, it's like a NTA1 or something like that. Super simple. Who is your major influence in style? Brooke says, who's your major influence in style? That's a great question. I love a lot of cinematographers. Some of my favorite cinematographers is actually not the mainstream ones that everyone talks about. The director of photography for a couple different ones. A lot of the Netflix shows have been really impressive recently. Maybe I should be ashamed to admit this, but Riverdale has really good cinematography. His name's Brendan Ugama. So super cool. He has so much good stuff. He did Sabrina, which was like a really creepy show, but the cinematography on it was really epic. And yeah, so just a bunch of people right now, like the cinematographer that's doing Man in the High Castle. I like a lot of that Netflix stuff that looks more cinematic, higher level there. So nothing too mainstream. All right. Thoughts, Family of Tech says, thoughts on the Sony a6600. Okay, so I saw that come out this morning in my email. It was announced, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So what's new about it? And couldn't really find anything like really impressively new about it. It just seemed like the Sony a6500 again. The only difference I could tell was that they improved the battery life, which is nice. The battery life on the a6500, which I'm using right now, is obviously terrible. But I think that's really the only difference between the 6600 and the 6500. Same megapixels. I guess the eye autofocus is better. But you know what? I found that the autofocus on the Sony a6500 is really good. I never actually have an issue with it. I'm using it right now, and it works really, really well. So I'm not going to be upgrading to the Sony a6600. If you don't already have one of these smaller ones in the a60 something range, obviously go for it. It has more of those features, but it's not something that I'm going to be upgrading to because it was just so incremental, just a tiny little step up from the one I'm using now. And obviously that better battery life is awesome. But for me, usually when I'm using this, I'm plugged in. Like right now, I'm plugged into continuous power, so battery life doesn't matter. Or I'm using a V-mount. So I'm always using these V-mount batteries, and this thing is a beast, and it'll power the Sony a6500 all day. Power it multiple days, really. So, smashing the mic. So yeah, I'm using these ones from D&O. Found that they're good battery. They're pretty valuable, like pretty cheap. So I think it's like $100 something bucks, $140 or something for it. So yeah, not a huge difference though in the new camera there, the Sony a6600. I'm bummed. I want the Sony a7S III already. When is that going to happen? That's what I want to know. So Garev, sorry if I'm butchering your name. He's still saying, hey, do a showing of the live stream setup now. There's not really much to show. Like I said, I'm using the Sony a6500, the Rode mic, and then the major component to make it all come to life is I don't think I can show it without unplugging it. but it's called the Blackmagic Ultra Studio Mini Recorder. It's just a tiny little box that allows you to plug the HDMI from your camera into the computer. So allows me to plug it in, and then I'm hooked up to the free OBS software, and obviously that's hooked into YouTube. So really, really simple setup. Nothing crazy, and I'm using the 16mm Sigma lens, which I freaking love because it gets so shallow. It's 1.4 f1.4, so beautiful, and the autofocus is actually really good on it for not being a native Sony camera. It's really good. So, all right. Family of Tech, would you get the lens? The new lens, the 16 to 55 f2.8. Yeah, so I saw that. That definitely is a nice range. I like how wide that goes, and then you know, obviously, like I said, right now I'm using a 16mm lens right now, and it's pretty wide. You can see my whole office, or whole side of the office. And then getting into 50mm, obviously I'm gonna get that beautiful, more portrait, and get a really blurred background. F2.8 is great. A lot of my lenses are f2.8, so I think it's really good shallow depth of field. I haven't seen the price on it, though. What's the price on that lens? Let's see. Price would depend on whether or not I would get it. So, looking it up. Okay, $1,400 for the new one, 16 to 55. Yeah, $1,400. No, not gonna get that lens. Obviously, it's the G series, so it's gonna be gorgeous. If you have the money and you don't already have a lens like in this range, that's gonna give you like really wide to like just medium. It's not telephoto by any means. Then yeah, go for it. But $1,400 I think is a little pricey. For me, the lens, what lens you use obviously is the most important, like one of the most important things to getting a really good image quality. But I find the Sony lenses to be pretty expensive compared to what you can find elsewhere. So a lot of times I actually adapt my lenses. Most of my lenses are all Canon mount, and then I'm adapting them to my Sony cameras, almost all of them, and they're a lot cheaper. So let's see, grab one right now. Using the Rokinon lenses. You're familiar with them, obviously, if you're doing any sort of filmmaking. So, and I'm just using a basic adapter here. This is actually just a completely dead adapter. It does nothing, no electronic connections, nothing in this one. I have one with ND filters built into it, which I absolutely love, but I was shooting indoors, so it's not on. But yeah, so this is just a Canon mount lens, and I love that. I buy everything Canon mount if I can, actually, which might be surprising to Sony users, but I buy all Canon mount so that if I ever want to use another camera that's, say, a Canon, or switch over to that, or throw this on like the new Blackmagic Pocket 6K, it's an EF mount, so I can throw it on there. You could put it on a lot of the Reds and other cinema cameras that are all EF mount. Sony E-mount you cannot put on any other camera body. It's kind of sucky. You really can't. So you have to be really invested in Sony if you want to start buying all their glass. So I know that's a long answer, but yeah, that's why I don't really buy any Sony glass. I have one Sony lens. So let's see. Missing comments here. Do I have any LUTs for download? Zach Scriven Media asks. No, I don't have any LUTs for download. That's kind of like the joke in the YouTube filmmaking space, right? Like, buy my LUTs, download my LUTs. No, I don't have any. I actually just bought a pack like a year ago that I really like and that I use. It's called D-LUTs. I'll put it in the comments, so you guys can check it out if you want to see it. Let's see, can I see if I can get the comments going? Scroll down here. Well, let me go down any further. Let's see. I don't know how to comment. Anyways, yeah, that's why I'm testing this out. Got to find the chat box. There's nowhere for me to reply in here. Yeah. So, anyways, it's called D-LUTs. They're good. Tons of channels sell LUTs. You can find them everywhere else. Maybe someday in the future I'll make some. Let's see. Okay, answer some other questions here. Segue to the picture. Yeah, stabilization equipment while using a Segway. Okay, so first off, love Segways. Unpopular opinion, love segways. Um, so the first time I rode a Segway was in California, around what was it? One of the little islands there. Super cool. Um, Loved it, but haven't actually filmed on a Segway yet. Filmed on other things with wheels like my longboard or sitting in the back of a car. If I was going to do it on a Segway though, definitely just use any of my gimbals. Use the Zion Crane, use the new Feiyu Tech AK4000, the Ronin S. Any of those are going to work fine on a Segway, and it's going to be super smooth, so no issue there. Um, Hey, what's up, Max? Max Soto, thanks for dropping by the live stream. Max, you're awesome. You're always putting comments on my videos and engaging in the audience, so I appreciate that, man. It's it's um it's always fun to see you drop by, and a lot of my videos don't get tons of comments and engagement, but I can always rely on you to start a conversation, so I appreciate that, man. Corey Price says, have you ever filmed real estate? If so, could you get away with using the Canon M50 to do so? Let's see, and what gear would you recommend on a budget? Yeah, so yes, I've definitely filmed real estate. Actually, all the first real estate that I started filming, my first camera was the Canon Rebel T3i, which a lot of people started out on. If you watch DSLR Guide, Simon Cade over there was using that for years. Great little camera. It's an APS-C crop sensor, and I was actually filming everything on that with the GlideCam HD 2000. So really basic stabilization, but it worked. I got really good at the GlideCam, liked it a lot. So yeah, I think you could probably get away with that on the Canon M50. I haven't used it yet myself. Let me see what some of the features are. Oh, no, I know that's a little point and shoot, right? You can't... let's see. Okay, yeah, so the Canon M50, it does have an interchangeable lens on it, flip out screen. Yeah, you could definitely do real estate on that. It looks like it has all the features that you would need to get away with a decent real estate video. Honestly, I've seen real estate videos shot on phones before, and you know, that's not preferred, but if you have proper stabilization, most phones are in 4K now, so you could probably get away with it. Yeah, it's not always about the gear. I think the Canon M50 would definitely do the job for doing real estate. Like I said, with real estate, you're going to want to shoot it on a slider or a gimbal, because getting that really smooth motion is really makes the real estate look the best, especially if you can get it really wide angle and really, really bright in the room. You want to open up all the windows. If there's lights that aren't going to conflict with it, like really heavy tungsten lights, then you probably don't want to turn those on. But if they're more daylight balanced, flip those on. Get it as bright as possible. Don't be afraid to jack up your ISO enough to get it really bright, obviously without getting too much grain in the image, but smooth shots is always good. Yeah, so done a lot of real estate videos in the past, not as much recently, but here and there I'll be doing things like that. All right. Oh, Zach, you said you got the small rig handle. Is that, are you talking about this one that I just made a video on? Because this thing is awesome. And if it's not this one, that's okay. They make a bunch of really cool ones, but loving this little guy. It's so perfect. It's just, boop, pops up just enough. I love the little finger grips. Got the monitor on there. You can tilt it around. It's a fantastic little rig. Highly recommend it. Perfect for little running and gunning just with this teeny tiny setup. So hopefully you did get your top handle that you wanted there. Pretty cool. Let's see. Segway says, have you ever used any of the Steadicams? No, nothing that's a Steadicam brand, just the GlideCams. So I've used a few of the different GlideCam models, and they're pretty similar to a Steadicam. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of differences between them, but that's all I've used. And honestly, I switched over to gimbals. I like them a lot better because keep it in the microphone. Sorry, guys. I don't know how the audio sounds. Hopefully the levels are good for you guys and there's not too much of a delay. But anyways, so I switched over to the gimbal because I can get much more precise movements and just be so much more particular and smooth with my shots. And I found when I went from the glide cam to the gimbal that the quality of my work just went way up. I could do a lot of things that I wanted to do previously that I couldn't do with the glide cam, like especially a lot of the tilting. It's really hard to get a really smooth tilt with a glide cam. It's really easy to get all the panning, but not the tilt. So when you're on a gimbal and you can just do the joystick, beautiful. So yeah, haven't used a Steadicam, but things similar to it. What's up, Tyler? Kenyon. Yeah, Kenyon in the chat. So good friend Tyler's in the chat. He says, what are your thoughts on the Panasonic S1H? So it looks really nice. I'm impressed. I love that everyone's coming out with 6K cameras now. I'm definitely impressed with that. Full frame, 10-bit internal recording. Looks really nice. Very impressed with that. I don't know if I'm going to be jumping ship yet for that camera, and the $4,000 price tag is a little high to me. I mean, when you compare that to the Blackmagic's new 6K camera, that's I think $2,400, $2,500, something like that. I don't know if it's worth paying that extra to get 6K. Obviously, it's full frame, so you're gonna get much better like shallow depth of fields, and it's gonna do better in low light. But for value, I don't think the $4,000 range is quite worth it. I'm still waiting on the Sony a7S III. I feel like they're holding out on that, and that's gonna be their full frame, like 6K camera. Hopefully, come on, Sony, don't let us down. Who really knows? But yeah, it looks really nice. I mean, if I get a chance to test it out, I would love to. It looks super nice. Yeah, so we'll see. So how long am I streaming here? 22 minutes. For any of you guys still hanging out, there's 7 of you watching. Thank you. Appreciate that. This is just a random live stream that I decided to test out the gear on it. So appreciate that for sticking around. A7S III for the win. Heck yeah. Yeah, who knows? I'm starting to wonder if the A7S III is ever going to come out, or if it even really is, if they're just going to kill the line. Because the Sony A7 III came out, and it was technically on paper better than the Sony A7S II, but cheaper. So it's like, what are they doing? Are they getting rid of the A7S line and just going to do A7s? I don't think they're going to do that. They haven't done that really quite before, but I'm definitely curious to see what happens with that. So Max says, what do you think is a decent size for a 5-in-1 diffuser? I think the one I have is like a 42-inch. It's really basic. It's nothing huge. Yeah, I wouldn't get something too big for that, because you just want something small usually to just pop over the talent if you're out in sunlight and give them some nice diffusion or bounce some light back onto them. I do have a massive one too that's like, I don't know, 6 feet high by like, 3.5 or 4 feet wide, something like that. It's huge. I don't use that nearly as much. I only ever use that if I need to get like a full body shot, but it's like a sail in the wind, so you have to clamp it down with like a C-stand and sandbags and stuff like that. So I use that much less. It's nice to have on hand, but yeah, I think I would get, I believe it's like a 42-inch reflector diffuser 5-in-1 thing. They're super cheap. You can get them on Amazon for like $15-20. Mine's from Newer. A whole bunch of companies make them. So yeah. Sick. And so, hey, Zach Scriven Media, dude, let's what? You want some LUTs? Oh gosh. Thank you for the super chat. That is awesome. So, uh, oh man, I appreciate that. Um, I'm gonna have to make some LUTs for you now, or something like a custom LUT. We're gonna call them the Z LUT or something like that, in memory of you. So really appreciate that, man. Super cool. And heck yeah, so you did get this handle, dude. It's seriously the best top handle I've ever used. And I was trying to figure out who made it. I was on the Facebook group for Small Rig, and I just posted a picture of it. And I guess it was actually a user design. So Small Rig didn't even design it. Someone that is a really genius camera novice designed this thing, and I love it. There's like the little Allen key built into the side. It's magnetic, so you could pop that out and just use it to remove it and then put it back on. So I love that it's all built in like that. Anyways, I keep like gushing about this thing, but super impressed with it. So all right, industry 4.0 road trip. Yes. All right. Yeah, so Tyler says ProRes RAW for the Panasonic S1H. I did see that. They keep announcing ProRes RAW, and then I haven't really seen. I don't know. Is anyone using it? I guess Nikon's Z6 camera was supposed to have it, and I believe the EOS R is supposed to have ProRes RAW over HDMI, but I'm not seeing anyone using it. So if it happens, that'd be awesome. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's happening. And what is ProRes RAW? Can I change the white balance later? You know, there's not a lot of information, I feel like, on what it's going to be. If it's going to allow me to change white balance later, that's awesome. If I can change ISO later, that's awesome. I know that's what all the Blackmagic RAW does, is pretty much ISO and white balance. There's not really any other adjustments. So if the Atomos recorder ProRes does that with their ProRes RAW, that would be sick and definitely worth looking into. But I don't know. Is anyone using ProRes RAW? I mean, if you've seen someone, like a video of someone using it or something, leave a comment what camera they're using and what they're doing, because I'd love to see that. ProRes RAW it would be really nice to have, but I just want to know what, like, when it's going to happen. Because it sounded like they were like, yeah, sometime in September we'll kind of release maybe an update or something for it. And anytime they're like, yeah, we're going to release the update to do that in the future, I'm like, okay, that's going to take forever. So I don't like that when they're like, yeah, you'll be able to do that someday. Zach, you said you're filming a documentary. That's awesome. What's the documentary going to be on? I've done a couple little tiny mini docs and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and having a handheld setup is like absolutely necessary. You got to be able to move so quick when you're doing doc style. I love it. It's a lot of fun. It's a totally different challenge to just be like on the go doing filmmaking like that. So I think that setup is going to be perfect for you. Got to get a little microphone on there, and you're going to be rocking. Let's get that mic on there too. Segue to the picture. You say you're using a gimbal with a 4th axis arm attached to a tripod head mounted to the Segway. That sounds nuts. I want to see that. You gotta like shoot a link down in the comments if you have like a video of using that, or like a photo or something up on Instagram or something. Put a link to that, because I want to see that. And what kind of Segway is it? Is it like the full stand-up one with like handlebars and stuff, or is it like the kind now that just like you stand on and there's like a little seat in between, or is it some other brand or something, and it's just called a Segway? Definitely tell me about that. I want to see. Okay, so Drone Cam is asking about Camtasia. I have not used Camtasia yet, so looks like it's an editing software for tutorials and so on. Okay, looks like it works on Windows and Mac. So I have not used Camtasia before. For me, I started out with video editing using iMovie because it just came for free on my Mac when I bought one, like, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever. So I was like, oh, sweet, this is awesome. And then, of course, the natural progression to that was to move to Final Cut Pro 10 because it has way more features. And Final Cut Pro 10 is only $199. So if you have an Apple computer, highly, highly recommend it. If you're already using Adobe and you've used Premiere before, go for it. But the thing is, it's pretty expensive. It's a monthly subscription. Monthly subscription. And it's like, if you don't have a student discount, it's like $50 a month or something like that. And you're paying it every single month for years and years and years. So it adds up, like in 4 months, you've paid for Final Cut Pro 10. Like in 4 months of paying for Premiere. So pay $200, get Final Cut Pro 10 and have it for years. Like I've had it for so long, and it's like, that works out to like, I don't know, $10-20 a year or something. It's nothing. So if you have an Apple computer, I recommend doing that, especially if you're just getting started out. It's a really easy program to learn. Tyler Kenyon says DSLR video shooter has a guide on ProRes RAW. I don't know if I've watched that. I need to check that out, because what camera was he using? Was it the EOS R or the Z6? I'm gonna have to check that out. I love all of his stuff. Watch his stuff today on the new aperture light. The little the little spotlight thing was kind of cool. So hopefully there's some new aperture videos coming up on the channel, because they emailed me randomly last week and were like, hey, do you guys do you use aperture stuff? Like, let's collaborate on something. So we'll see. There might be some new stuff coming out on that. I do have an aperture light. I haven't made a review of it or anything yet. It's just their little like mini 20. I do like the light a lot. It's pretty nice for spotlighting and stuff like that. So let's see. Okay, so Zach Media says he's taking a 30-day road trip. That is sick. So what? It's you must be doing that after summer, kind of doing a fall road trip, and man, you could get some really beautiful footage on that road trip. So I'll definitely leave a comment with a link to it when it's done, because I'll check that out on your channel. So Segway, you're doing a full-size Segway. Okay, so it does have like the big handles and stuff on the front, so that thing must be a beast. Cool stuff though, I'm sure. Yeah, iMovie Gang. Yeah, it was a good starting spot. I mean, honestly, the first video editor that I ever used was, I'm ashamed to say it, no, I'm just kidding, was Microsoft Movie Maker. Thing was horrible. Someday in the future, if you guys want, I will link to a video that I made. It's still on YouTube with Microsoft Movie Maker and like all their terrible effects, like black and white and rain and all the terrible effects that they have. But that was fun. It was a fun place to start. That's all I had. It was free. It came on my computer. Heck, I used to make like videos in PowerPoint. I would literally actually use Paint and PowerPoint and paint stuff in Paint, like frame by frame, animate something like a person's mouth. I'd make it, and then I'd make the next one and the next one and make them talk or move, and then I would put it into PowerPoint, and then I could arrow through it and like animate people, because that's all I had. I had Paint and Microsoft PowerPoint, and that must have been like on Windows 95 or Windows 98 or something. It was when I was really young, making like animations and stuff. So pretty hilarious. If I could find those, that would be so fun to just like see these terrible animations I did. And then I would do like voiceover. I'd like blah, 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 record it into Microsoft and make these silly animations. So yeah, so ways to get free software. Yeah, don't always recommend pirating stuff, but whatever you got to do to get the job done, that's up to you. So started with Windows Movie Maker, it crashed every minute. Yep. And honestly, I'm a Mac guy. I've been using Mac for a long time, and the thing about it is it almost never crashes. I mean, my Mac computer, my iMac, I could think maybe once or twice that it's ever crashed. And I've had this one for like 6 years. It's maybe crashed once or twice ever. And a few times, obviously the programs crash a little bit more, but Final Cut doesn't crash very often for me. But I've seen using a lot of the Adobe stuff like Premiere and Photoshop, Lightroom, a lot of those will crash much, much more often, even on Mac. So I hate that. I don't know. I'm not a PC guy. I used to own both and work on both of them really frequently at work. Every job I've ever had there almost always have PCs. And in school we use PCs most of the time. But yeah, they crash too much for me. They get viruses too easy. So yeah, I don't know. I'm Team Apple. That's just me maybe. So this live stream's going on longer than I thought. 35 minutes. Thank you guys for watching. Seriously, I appreciate it. All right. So very cool. What other questions do you guys have? The 6 or 7 of you guys watching this now. I don't know. Maybe you're doing other stuff right now. Normally I'd be like, once it's hitting 11 or 12, don't tell anyone, but I'd be like dropping in on Fortnite or something, just playing a couple rounds before I go to bed. So maybe you're playing video games, just listening to me blabber away. But hit me with those questions if you're paying attention to the chat and stuff. Be happy to answer anything else you got going on. So. Okay, Corey Price says that he has Premiere, crashes all the time. Yep. A lot of guys at the studio that I work at, so some of you may not know that I work full-time at another studio, so I do a ton of freelance work and all this YouTube stuff, but I'm also full-time at a studio, and about half the guys work on Premiere, the other half work in Final Cut. And it's funny because a lot of times it's like you're getting a lot of footage that isn't connected, you're getting all the red and footage missing stuff, or it's crashing. So experience with Premiere, not great. It's Final Cut Pro 10 is very easy. Trust me, you can learn it in probably just a day of playing with it. Like, do it on a video that is a personal project or something and that isn't due, to the client like right away or anything like that. Just do it on a personal project, edit up some old footage or something like that. And you could spend a couple hours, maybe a day in Final Cut Pro 10 and get pretty comfortable with like the basics. Obviously, it's going to take you a couple weeks of editing on it to like know where everything's at. But just simply like dropping in footage, cutting it, adjusting the audio levels, and doing like some simple color grade on it, extremely easy to do. That's the beauty of anything Apple. Obviously, it's very simplistic. So if you want to switch from Premiere to Final Cut Pro 10 and you're sick of Premiere, definitely recommend it. Easy to learn. Going the other way, much more difficult. I've done editing in Premiere, and every time I'm like, where's this? Where's that? And it's like, there's a lot more buttons and options, which is great because you can do more, but it's a lot harder to learn. So what drone do I have? Let's see. So I'm using the, what is this? DJI, the Mavic 2. I'm like, the DJI, what is this? Yeah, so I'm using the Mavic 2 Pro. So it's got the 1-inch Hasselblad sensor on there, and I love this thing. So absolutely beautiful. What actually, it's funny because I came from the DJI Phantom 3 Pro before that, which also had a pretty large sensor, wasn't 1 inch, but much larger drone, but I just couldn't travel with it. So I found all the time that I was not bringing it with me on shoots because it was just way too big and it didn't fit in my bag, and it was a whole nother case. But this thing is so teeny tiny that I can throw it into my Pelican, fits into a nice little slot there, or I could throw it into my backpack and it fits in a nice slot that's custom designed for it. So always bringing this with me. I'm finding that way more than not, I'm like, hey, might as well bring the drone, like bring it on the plane, bring it with me in the car. Sometimes I just put it in the center console and I'm like, I think I might like fly today, so I'll just throw it in the center console because it's so small. So highly recommend it. The footage is beautiful, and the footage is actually better than I was getting on my Phantom 3. You know, it's 10-bit. Um, it's gorgeous footage. So yeah, part 10. Are you part 107 holder? So not currently part 107 holder. I need to still get that. Most everything I do is just flying for fun, flying for these YouTube videos. So I don't do it really for corporate stuff. Still need to get the part 107. So Max says, what would you recommend for an affordable light for key lighting? That's a good question. There's so many good lights out there. It depends. What kind of light do you want? Maybe leave that below. Do you want like an LED panel, or are you thinking like more of a spotlight, like a Fresnel one? You can get a little more control out of it. There's a ton of stuff. I mean, for me, like my main key light, I'll show you if I can here, is in a softbox right here. So that's just a 1x1 LED. That's actually a really cheap light. I think it's made by Newer. Super cheap. And then I put that pop-up softbox on it. Works great as a key light for these videos. But my key light constantly changes if I'm doing client work. You know, I use the ETC Source 4. Sometimes I'm using tube lights, using the airy lights, all different ones. But so if you're going for something cheap, just get a little 1x1 LED panel. You can buy a bunch of them on Amazon for around, I think around $100, about maybe $120 for one. And it's nice, soft light. Makes for a good key light for just talking head stuff, interviews, and just like lighting up a basic scene. So you can get them from Newer, GVM. There's a whole bunch of like Chinese brands that make them, but those are nice. Not as much control with the LED panel, but they're nice. Zach says, do you shoot 10-bit? So the only thing I'm shooting 10-bit on right now, again, is the drone. Nothing else shoots 10-bit, like all the A7S, the A6500. Those are all still 8-bit, unfortunately. So yeah, but I am shooting 10-bit on this, and it looks nice. I mean, maybe to like a really keen eye, you can tell like a huge difference in the color and stuff. But to me, I don't tell a massive difference between the Phantom 3 Pro's color versus the color on the new Mavic 2. So not a huge difference there in the color, but the quality does look better with that 1-inch sensor. So I don't know. I'm hoping that things really keep going up and up with 10-bit, but most of my cameras are just 8-bit. So. Gotcha. So drone cam, you're talking about getting the 107 is worth it. Yeah. So yeah, I think it'd be cool to learn a lot about all the different aviation stuff. I know there's a lot of crazy parts to it and the different rules and things like that. For me, I fly really safe. Some people are like dangerous with their flying. For me, they say keep line of sight. You know, keep your eye on the drone. 100% that's what I do. If I ever lose sight of my drone, I'm like, nope, like come back too far. I like to basically drive to or walk to or hike to as close to the subject as I can and take off there and then fly around, because that way I have way better precision and way better battery life, instead of being like, I'm gonna fly half a mile out to the mountain or whatever and then I'm gonna film it, and it's like you just wasted half your battery. So I try to get as close as I can, and obviously not going over 400 feet, not flying in restricted areas, over people, near airports, all that stuff. So yeah, I do need to get into the details of that, though. I'm sure there's some pretty cool stuff to know in that, so I'm gonna have to check it out still. Yeah, so Max, you said you got the M9. So yeah, I mean, the Aperture M9, great little lights. I haven't seen the Atom Cube the Atom Cube RX1. Yeah, so it's time to buy some bigger lights, honestly, dude. Get the let me look it up on Amazon. There's some just really cheap ones, but that put out way more output than those. So if you want like really nice soft lighting, um, those are too small. They're just the size of them is not, they're not big enough. You're not covering enough space with those. Um, Heck, maybe sell one of them and then get a little small LED light panel. So yeah, so there's these newer ones which I have. I have two of them that I use in the studio here, and 150 bucks. 150 bucks for two bi-color LED light panels. Um, and yeah, so they have just a way more output. You can light up a whole room, give like really nice soft light. So I definitely recommend getting a bigger light if you can. Save up or sell some gear you don't use. I do that all the time. I'm selling all kinds of stuff right now that I just don't use. Like it's like, yeah, I have this, I have that. I don't ever touch this anymore. Why am I hanging on to it? So sell something you're not using anymore, even if it's not a piece of camera gear. Sell whatever, an old skateboard or something you don't use on Craigslist or Facebook or whatever, and get some bigger LED lights, because I think you're really gonna like that. Yeah, so 10-bit, you're able to grade it a lot better. That's true. So in the studio that I do most of the shooting in, we're shooting on the Sony FS7, which is a really nice, like, cinema grade camera, and it shoots 10-bit, and the color on it looks beautiful. The skin tones look so good, because it's 10-bit, so it's picking up way more tones in the skin, and there's way better gradation. So yeah, I can definitely push the grade a lot further with 10 bits than I can with 8 bits. So let's see. All right, checking out the comments, trying to see what's going on here. Okay. All right. So Brian says, in your opinion, what's the best mirrorless camera video for 2019? Oh my gosh, if I could answer that question. That's a loaded question. Not fair to ask. There are so many great cameras right now, and it's hard to say like this one's the best or that one's the best. It depends on, first, what's your budget, what are you going to be using it for, because like the new S1H that came out today, 6K full frame camera, like that sounds awesome. Like two things that I would love to have: 10-bit internal recording, awesome. It's $4,000 though. I've never spent $4,000 on a camera or any one single piece of gear, so would not buy it. But something honestly that I've been like really keeping an eye on, and I've been really impressed with what they keep doing, is Blackmagic. So I've used the original pocket camera, and I was not impressed with it. It was really bad in low light. It's micro four thirds. I wasn't super impressed with its ability, but the new Pocket 4K seems very impressive. I love the raw capabilities on that, the touch screen. Like it just seems like it's made for entry level people that want to get into cinema but get really good colors and skin tones and like a lot of the features that you need. The only thing is, if you want to be like a hybrid shooter and be doing photography, like any sort of stills, that camera can't do that. It's definitely not made for taking any still images. But I'd say the best camera, maybe I need to get my hands on it, is the new 6K, the Pocket 6K that came out just a week or two ago. That's looking like a really good contender, especially for that price point. 6K for $2,500. I don't know of any other camera that shoots 6K. Excuse me. Any other camera that can do that. So leaning towards that. I'm a huge Sony guy though. I'm still sticking with the A7S II, the A7S, the A7 III. Still love all those cameras because I love the features that Sony's packed into them. I love the sensors that they're using. Yeah, I think there's too many good cameras out there right now. The EOS R, the Nikon Z6, all the new full frame mirrorless cameras, really nice. It's hard to say which one's better. Just you got to tell me your budget and what you're going to be using it for, and then I can, okay, put you in the right direction. All right. Corey Price, have a good night, man. Thanks for hanging out. I know I've been going like really long long on this. Been streaming for 50 minutes. I think I'll wrap this up when I hit 60 minutes. A full hour live stream. Did not intend to do this, but you know, you guys are here watching, so I appreciate that. Yeah, Corey, thanks for subscribing and being part of the community, hanging out. Really appreciate that, man. Have a good night. All right. Yeah. Brian laughs. Yeah. sorry for making me choose the best camera. That's funny. All right. Okay, so he says, do you think it's worth switching from the A7S II to the A7 III? Again, that's a loaded question. So if you're shooting on the A7S II, you want to switch to the Sony A7 III, I would ask you why. Like, what features do you want? So if you want better autofocus, definitely switch to the Sony A7 III. Its autofocus is fantastic. The A7S II's autofocus is garbage. Even with a Sony lens on there, it's just terrible, especially for continuous autofocus. So if you're doing a lot of gimbal work and you're using continuous autofocus, then the A7 III is where it's at. You're going to get much, much better gimbal footage and autofocus. And if you want better battery life, you're not using V-mount batteries, then it has much better battery life as well. But other than that, I know they've improved the color science a little bit on that. You're still getting a full frame sensor and pretty much all the same features between the two of them. So I'd say the only reason I would switch is for better battery life or the autofocus. Otherwise, I would stick with the A7S II, wait for the A7S III to come out. All right, checking out the comments here again. Okay, so Lazir Maga. I can't say your username, but you said you love the red little rig setup. It says, does that rig improve handheld shots a lot? So I'm actually going to be making a whole video about this in the future, all about just doing handheld footage. And the easy answer is yes. So anytime you take a teeny tiny camera that's usually like, just a DSLR, and you start rigging it out and adding weight to it, it's going to be so much easier to get handheld footage because you get so many micro jitters when you're just hand holding it, and your footage doesn't look good because it's just like, just too much jitter. But once it gets heavy though, you're starting to really hold the load and gravity is keeping it much more steady and balancing it. So even this little rig, it's not a ton, but just having the top handle and the monitor on there and a cage definitely makes this much more steady, because this is the A7S I and there's no in-body image stabilization on it, and there's no stabilization on the lens, but I can still get really steady footage with just even this because it's a little bit heavier. And once I add the V-mount battery and a matte box and stuff, the footage gets much more smooth. So I actually shoot a lot on the Sony FS5 and the FS7 as well, which are much larger cameras, and we'll do just full handheld with those, and you can get really great footage. And there's no stabilization on those cameras either, because it has like a much larger body, so the sensor's just way better stabilized. So yeah, bigger rig, things will definitely be more smooth for handhelds. Let's see, so Brian is saying, have you checked out the Z-Cam? Okay, so the Z-Cam E1, yes, the first generation. So that thing was interesting. That it's like, looks like a GoPro. I've checked that out, but I haven't checked out the E2 through the E6 yet. I intend to. I'm trying to figure out how I can get my hands on one, because a lot of them haven't even come out yet. There's only a few people that have actually used them right now. It's not easy to get your hands on one. Still trying to figure out a way to test them out though, because the Z-Cam seems like they're doing some really cool stuff, being able to do 6K and even up to 8K, and I just love that little small like cube body style, that like red, they're kind of emulating a red with that. And I really want to get my hands on one and check one out. What I'm most worried about with that is kind of like the overall image quality, the color science, the skin tones and such. But if it can match what other ones are doing, then I think that could be a really good option, especially for its capabilities and its resolutions and like the slow motion you can get in 4K. Super cool. So I do want to check out the Zcam still. All right. So Drone Cam saying he flies a massive drone 3 times the size of the Mavic. Yeah, yeah, I know there's some just huge drones out there. I have to look up, just do a quick little Google search, see what drone you're using. So I know DJI makes even some really, really big ones. Okay. Yeah, that thing's big. It's a fat drone. So what makes this one nice that you like? It's a similar price range, $1,900. I think this thing was like $1,600 with tax. Yeah, this thing's massive. So six props on it. Yeah, I'd be interested to know what the benefit of using the Typhoon drone would be over one of the smaller ones. So Brian, yeah, glad I could help you out with your rig there, watching the rig build out. So yeah, you're still using the A7S II. Yeah, I love that camera. I was using the A7S II today, just actually to get some pictures, and it's a fantastic camera. So yeah, I hope you got a cool camera rig going. Definitely if you guys make any videos or anything of your stuff, feel free to shoot me a link, or on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Chadwin. Put it in the chat. It's really simple. Oh, let's see here. Yeah, it's just at Chadwin. YouTube doesn't want to let me do it because it thinks I'm trying to tag myself. But yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. So if you got a picture of your new A7 III or A7S II rig, you know, on Instagram or whatever, send it to me. I'd love to check it out. It'd be super cool. So HR, what's up? Hey, so he's asking about my live setup. So yeah, I'm just doing a live streaming test here. You know, it's 11:15 where I'm at. I don't know where everyone else is at, but it's like 2 a.m. on the East Coast. So yeah, the live stream setup I'm using, again, just to recap, really simple, using the Sony a6500, and then I'm doing the HDMI out into the Blackmagic Ultra Studio Mini Recorder. It's just a tiny little adapter that allows you to plug HDMI in, and then it goes Thunderbolt into my iMac, and I'm using the OBS software. So it's a super basic setup. There's some really complex ones out there. When I was looking into it, I was like, holy cow, like there's a lot of equipment people are using to do this, but this thing's tiny. It's just a little adapter. See if I can show you on camera here what it looks like. Yeah, so it's autofocus is going crazy looking at that, but really basic setup, super easy. Then I got the Rode microphone, so easy setup for the live stream. Oh, okay. So the drone you're using has retracting landing gear. That's cool. That's kind of like the Inspire. We use the Inspire at the studio a lot, and it's got the landing gear that goes up and down. The Inspire 1. It's not the 2. And I love that. Super cool. So that's really interesting. 360 4K cam. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so I would love to see some 360 footage out of that. The 360 aerial footage that I have seen is always like crazy. Just like being able to completely look around and feel like you're flying is really cool. So that's pretty epic. All right. Yeah, shoot me a rig, a picture of your rig, Brian. That'd be cool to check out. I'll check it out on Instagram if you got one. What's up, PR17? He says, how can I find actors for my short films? So that's a good question. So for me, all the little like short films and things like that I've done, a lot of times at first it's just like friends, finding just like friends that are willing to act. But check out Facebook groups. So I don't know where you live at, but go online and start looking up like little Facebook groups for filmmaking in your area. Just do a couple searches and you'll find a handful. And a lot of those Facebook groups, people do like casting calls and stuff like that. So if you're making a short film and you need some actors, just put it out there. Say, hey, I'm making this film about whatever, and it's paid or it's unpaid, and I'm looking for a female actor and a male and something else, like a little kid or whatever it is. I have no idea. But just put out a casting call, and there's a lot of people that are willing to help out even for free. So that's what I've done. I've found people on Facebook, and also just like if you meet one actor or actress, a lot of times they have a ton of friends. So some of the people that I've worked with, I'll just ask them like, hey, do you know anyone else like in this age or that looks like this or whatever? Because, you're always trying to cast for someone specific. And a lot of times they know someone and they can get you connected. Hey, I'll give you their number. I'll message them, whatever. So just start kind of networking with like the actors that you do already know. And if you don't know any, get on Facebook groups and find some, because I guarantee you there's probably a Facebook group in your state or country or city or wherever it is that you live, and you can find some other people that are interested in filmmaking and people that can come out and help too, hold a boom mic or whatever. All right. Yeah, so I think we're gonna wrap it up here soon. It's an hour into this. Really appreciate you guys stopping by. Like I said, this is just a little live stream test. I'm hoping next live stream is gonna be much cooler. Maybe get some. I had got this ugly blank wall behind me, and like I do so much work in this teeny tiny office that like I don't want to hang anything on it really, because I'll always bump into it. But I'm thinking I got to put a picture up or something, because if I'm going to do live streaming, I got to have something. What do you guys think? What should I put up there? I'm like thinking maybe some photos or something that I took. Not sure. Max Soda says, you going to get on Fortnite tonight? Probably. Well, maybe. It's only 11:20 here. So yeah. Drop your Fortnite name on there. We can drop in. I ain't afraid to say that I play a little Fortnite. Gotta go get in a game. So anyways, next live stream, I'll put something up here, get a little better lighting. Right now I'm just using the Quasar Science 4-foot LED to kind of light up the scene. Nothing else great here, but yeah, this worked out nicely. Just this little setup I think works great for live streaming. So I'll do another one in the future. When do you guys want to see this kind of stuff? I mean, there's been consistently 9 or 10 people here watching. I don't know, it seems like some of you guys are late night owls watching. So let me know when you want to see the live streams, what kind of stuff you want me to talk about. I love talking about gear, so maybe just like chatting about gear once a week or something would be fun to do. So let me know if you guys want to do that kind of thing. Yeah, okay, sweet. Max dropped your Fortnite name. Thank you very much. And let's see. Yeah, so PR17, yeah, you're asking how you can get views on your short film. So again, just if you have, and I did answer your question about finding actors and stuff like that. So hopefully you did hear that part. But yeah, so getting views on your short films, post it on YouTube, post it on Facebook, share it with all your Facebook friends. You could share it on Reddit. A lot of times I post my videos on Reddit. There's tons of filmmaking stuff, like different little subreddits on there. I think there's one just called filmmaking and videography and cinematography. There's a bunch on there. Don't go spam them. That's not what they're for. But get involved in those communities. And there's one called short films as well. I believe it's just a subreddit called short films. So there's a bunch of places to drop your short film, get some views on it. But yeah, just start with your social media platforms and of course YouTube. Easy way to kind of start getting some traction on it. All right, thanks, Brian. I will try to keep live streaming in the future Here in Costa Rica, it's 12:21. Okay, so it's not too late. 12:21 a.m. I thought it might be a little later for some people, but hey, thank you for hanging out. Really appreciate it, guys. We're 1 hour and 5 minutes into this live stream, but it's been a ton of fun. I think I'll do some more of these. I just kind of want to see how it'd go. I'll do some more like actually in the middle of the day when people are awake. See if we can talk about gear, filmmaking, whatever questions you guys have. I'd love to see what you guys are up to. Answer your questions in the comments and stuff. So again, thank you so much for stopping by. I think I'm going to sign off here. And you guys have a fantastic night. Again, appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next video. All right. See if I can figure out how to stop this live stream.